the most disappointing Elden Ring update. Let's see what is this video about, shall we?
Of 22, FromSoft released a free PvP-focused update called the Coliseum, getting PvP enjoyers very excited. And after nearly...
This update was pretty cool for one particular reason. They actually changed Kesty R2 attack. It was actually staggering for the tier 2 and it got sped up so you could actually use the R2 attacks of the Kesty in order to keep priority on your opponent and vortex them every time they had to guess to either roll well or not when you essentially was about to attack them repeatedly, and that was amazing. Shame like the Kesty got actually nerfed.
2 years
It was so much fun.
I can safely say that it still sucks complete balls to this day.
This is worthless.
Y lo digo con más de 1000 horas de PvP jugadas en esta porquería. The Coliseum refers to arenas in Elden Ring used for nothing but PvP encounters between consenting players who want to rock their socks out in a mighty fisticuff of legend. And by that, I mean 2 dudes flailing their arms like inflatable dummies. The concept was shoehorned into the game in order to appease the PvP side of the community, who complained about the lack of PvP-focused stuff. Before the arenas opened to the public, you would either need to invade, be invaded, or drop your red summon sign at a community-agreed dueling spot in order to be able to fight other goobers. I'm not going to delve deep into the invasions aspect of the game, since we already have a cajillion vids about it. But let's just say the hosts had a huge advantage over duelists, having the capability of doing...
Yep.
things.
Yeah, like when someone actually summoned you, they could actually kick you out when you had like a duelist status. That was just a case.
This is a real human being! What a fucking legend! Oh.
This was pretty fucking stupid. So FromSoft shat the Coliseum out in order to flex tape the PvP issue into oblivion. The Coliseum provides 3 different locations that can be unlocked as you progress through the game and accessed through the Round Table Hold. These include the Limgrave Coliseum, the Caelid Coliseum, and the Lendel Coliseum. Each one will unlock different game modes you can participate in, as well as their respective combat location. Game modes include duels, where you fight another gamer until one of you kicks the bucket, combat ordeals, which functions similarly to duels but with a time limit, where the one who gets the most kills wins. And United Combat, where you can fight alongside friends against other people. There's also the option to include spirit summons in the fights, which allows for some very wacky situations. All of this sounds pretty neat on paper, right? Well, turns out it's implemented like ass. Básicamente esta poronga está atada con alambre. If I were to ask you the question, who can you be matched with when queuing up in the Coliseum? Would you know the answer? I mean, you could know it if you looked it up online, because the game doesn't fucking tell you how it works. The only way the community knows how any matchmaking interactions work is through extensive testing, which you won't do if you don't even suspect there is a matchmaking, as most people think they can be invaded by a max-level dude when they just started the game. Only people already interested and invested in PvP will know to look for it online, so the more casual part of the audience, which I would say constitutes for 90% of the player base, would only find consistent Coliseum matches during launch, when the...
Honestly, it's kind of made me realize one thing. Like, it's actually true. It's such a basic information as matchmaking is actually not really explained. Back in the days of Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3, we had a community managers for the Souls games that used to inform player base about these things. You still needed to be into the PvP scene to have interest into what some sort of the community manager talks about and like what type of information they want to give to the community, sure. But in case of Elden Ring, we don't even have that. Like, actually, funny enough, you have this Extra Life level matchmaking calculator. Like, now the calculator displays stuff correctly, but for like till the DLC release, essentially, for like the first 2 years, this calculator, that is the most popular one, was displaying incorrect values for the matchmaking. And people just literally couldn't properly adjust their builds if they wanted to be in certain matchmaking range, because the most popular resource was just simply wrong. So yeah, Kinda unfortunate.
Hype for it was at its peak. Matchmaking in the Coliseum is based on the same formula used in Invasions. It's determined by your character level and by your highest weapon level ever obtained. The game has brackets for both, and in order to match with someone, both your level and max weapon level must be inside that bracket. The community, for convenience's sake, has a commonly agreed meta level where people stop leveling to focus on PvP, which is between 125 and 150, with plus 25 weapons. If you happen to look for Coliseum duels outside of meta level nowadays, be ready to be doing absolutely nothing at the round table hold for hours, which elongates to eons if you want to play any of the other game modes with more than one person.
Dude, if that would be the only fucking issue with it. Like, for one, you can choose a venue, essentially a map for the match, yeah? And that map is actually prioritized in the matchmaking in the way, so like if you are going to choose like different map to the one that someone else choose, then you're never gonna find each other. And that one sounds normal, sounds logical. You could always make the smart system that at some point just going to match you with the other maps if you cannot find players, sure, but whatever, fuck it. It's still somewhat logical. What is not logical is you have actually a setting called random venue or any venue where the game chooses the map for you. And normally you could like expect that this shit is gonna be rotating. It is not rotating. It is ultimately at the beginning, when you click start the match, when you click start the matchmaking, the game chooses one map and stays on this map forever. So let's say if you have like a 5 players, let's say like you have situation where you have like a overall 6 players looking together into matchmaking for a 3v3 match, and 5 of them ended up in the same lobby, and you are the 6th player that choose any map instead of particular venue that the other players are already on, and let's say they are on the K lead and the game is going to choose for you fucking Limgrave, then you are never gonna matchmake with them. Yes, this is that ridiculous.
¿Qué haces parado ahí como un Bobby?
O sea, si todo lo que querés es hacer PvP fuera de nivel meta, es mucho mejor simplemente invadir o hostear en el mundo abierto en vez de estar rascándote las bolas mientras esperas en la mesa redonda como un pelotudo. At least if you're waiting for duelists in the overworld, you can activate the Taunter's Tongue and wait for invaders while you play the game. Same goes for the blue cipher ring if you want to play as a blue hunter. And there are generally many more gamers participating in overworld shit in comparison.
I kind of disagree here. So like outside of the meta level, like you have also level 301 plus, and essentially ever since you reach 301 level, you are matchmaking with everyone above. So from 301 to 713, which is max level in the game. And that one is very active on the arena. But yeah, this is true that if you are like between 150 and 300, then you might end up just never finding match because people are so fucking spread apart.
Comparison to the arena. We haven't even gotten into the technicalities of the game modes, and we already have 2 huge flaws with this thing. Shit only gets wilder from this point.
Whoa!
But not as wild as learning how to edit videos, because as an aspiring editor, you may find yourself overwhelmed by the myriad of expensive editing software to try. So
Sponsor
if you're
segment.
one of these beginner video editors, why not give a chance to today's sponsor, Filmora? Hey, thanks to Filmora for sponsoring this video. To further make the matchmaking even more repulsive, you'll only be matched with people who have the same options as you do. Sounds like a no-brainer.
Duh.
But when any location can only match with any location, instead of, you know, any fucking location, you already know you're up for something.
No, that's actually wrong. That's I already explained it how it works. It was already profoundly tested. Also on the private servers. Any location matches with, like, just chooses the location instead of you.
Instead of, you know, any fucking location, you already know you're up for some hair loss. United Combat works in the worst way possible, as teams are defined by password matchmaking. If you want to do 2 versus 2 fights against other people, those other 2 people can't be random solo players. They need to be also a password match team of players, otherwise you just won't connect with anyone. The odds of gamers finding players in meta level are already low, let alone...
So below the password, you have here like an option for the like all players, no preference and so on. This option can be swapped to the team only. Although like then you can only fight against people that also uses their password. Not your password, but their password. Essentially like team versus team fights.
Password matchmaking. If you
But
want to
yeah.
do 2 versus 2 fights against other people, those other 2 people can't be random solo players. They need to be also a password match team of players, otherwise you just won't connect with anyone. The odds of gamers finding players in meta level are already low, let alone some casual gamer who's trying the Coliseum at level 284 with his +11 flail. But hey, at least the player limit is 6 instead of 4. So in theory, you could play with 5 more people if you have 5 friends who happen to be free at the same time as you.
Like that's ever gonna happen.
But seamless co-op is already 10 times better for that. But let's pretend you go for the simplest option. You pick duels on any location at meta level. In that case, yes, you'll most likely find people to play with. But it's just one duel with a max duration of 3 minutes and then you're back on queue. Oh, you'd like a rematch? Well, too bad, bozo.
Nope. Well, yes, you cannot rematch.
From a technical perspective, all 3 locations to fight in are essentially the same garbage, one giant round arena with no corners, with the exception of the Kaled one, which has 4 pillars to use for cover. The arenas are just so big that if one of the players were to be a sentient tumor, he could just run away with light roll all the time and stall until the time limit ends. But in the cases you don't run into walking tumors, unless you're exclusively doing it for your deep love of PvP, you have absolutely nothing to gain from the arena.
What?
Yep. I mean, like, you have ranks that mean basically nothing, and it's very easy to actually get the max rank. That being said, what's pretty funny about what Wi-Fi mentioned here earlier, yeah? People that actually just like trolling around, away, and so on. So, in Dark Souls 2, yes, this is another time, like yet another time where I'm just praising Dark Souls to superiority. When you hit someone on the arena and the time limit is gone, then there is actually a winner that is determined by percentage of the HP of the player left. And honestly, that could lead to the same Tomorrow or even worse one, now when I think about it. Here at least you draw, I don't know, man. Maybe it's not like a Dark Souls 2 superiority case. Honestly, just like the arena design is dog shit and that's it.
What?
No rewards, no incentives, no cosmetics, nothing. Just a badge that shows how much of your free time you use to punish yourself. Dark Souls 2 not only had covenants with different rewards for winning PvP matches, they also had a cosmetic aura to players who acquired a certain score in the arena. How did they manage to go backwards this badly? And I know you'll probably quote the PvP is an afterthought meme.
But Rennie, PvP is an afterthought.
Cerra l'orto. But instead of an afterthought, it feels more like genuine incompetence. There's no reason not to apply the same shit scaling they use for over-leveled phantoms and have everyone be able to fight everyone to increase activity all across the board. There was no reason to not make the arenas smaller and more varied, to have each have a sense of uniqueness, just like they did in Dark Souls fucking 2. There was no reason not to have rewards when winning matches such as upgrade material or...
I'm actually gonna mention it straight off the bat that Dark Souls 2 you could match with anyone as well. Arena had level priority, but if you was waiting long enough for potential match, you could always match with someone outside of your level bracket.
Or hard to obtain items to incentivize PvP engagement in a safe and controlled environment where there's 0 consequences to losing. You know what? I take it back. Instead of incompetence, it feels more like intentional sabotaging. I wouldn't be surprised if the next game they shart outright doesn't have any kind of PvP because it seems they have a clear bias they're leaning into. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about this shit. Nos revimos.
Nah, bruh,
Ciao.
this is...
In December of 22...
This is conspiracy theory region, I guess. Nah, like, another Elden Ring game, there will be one. It doesn't matter if that's like Elden Ring 2 or some sort of the spiritual successor. It's probably gonna have way better PvP. Well, they messed up with this one, that's for sure.